By the time the NHL expanded to include teams from United States, we were seeing quite a bit of momentum. The American fans wanted to see the game a little bit more exciting. And this is what happened. Now, starting with the 27-28 season, the NHL, to further encourage offense, or the American fans' style of play, the league set into place a series of measures that would forever change the face of hockey. The first and foremost is to allow forward passes in the defensive zone as well as the neutral zone. Now, the maximum width of the goalie pads is reduced from 12 to 10 inches, so probably more goals. Curiously, despite the introduction of these measures, Habs goalie George Hainsworth allowed 43 goals in 44 games, including 22 shutouts, records that still stand to this day. Now, before 1910-11, hockey was played at 2 periods of 30 minutes each without stop time. But in 27-28, the league added the stop time to the 3 20-minute periods, each separated by a 10-minute intermission, or as we see in the NHL format now, how many commercials that can be put in. Now, teams now have to change ends of ice at each new period, and a 10-minute sudden death overtime to be played if the score is tied after regulation. This was taken away and, of course, was brought back in the early 80s. Now, a minor penalty is to be imposed to a player other than the goaltender for deliberately picking up the puck while in play. The minor penalty to be assessed as well for deliberately shooting the puck out of play. Of course, the Toronto player against Montreal really killed him in the series. Now, the Art Ross goal net is officially adopted by the NHL. Now, the B-style net was an initiative of Bruins coach and GM Art Ross. Art Ross had played an important role in the evolution of hockey, first as a steady defenseman for the Montreal Wanderers, then as vice president, GM, and coach of the New Boston Bruins, the first American team to join the NHL. It will be until the late 1980s his B-shaped goal net, like his Bruins, would survive again until the late 1980s. And you see it looks like a letter B from up ahead. Now, the maximum length for hockey sticks is 53 inches, length to be measured from the heel of the blade to the end of the handle. No minimum length stipulated. The home team also was given the privilege to decide which end it wants to defend first. Now, by 28-29, to further increase the number of goals scored, and again to please the American public, this new rule was revolutionized by the way the fastest game in the world is played, making it more fast and dynamic than ever. Some might not know that it's the only in 28-29 that forward passes were allowed in the defensive zone, thus opening up new opportunities for players in changing hockey, making it more a transition game than a possession one, which is possession similar to lacrosse. Now, before that, it was forbidden to pass the puck to a teammate located in front, a rule similar to rugby, except in a neutral zone. On the other hand, it was still allowed to make a forward pass in the offensive zone. Now, a minor penalty was to be assessed to the player who delays the game by passing the puck back into the defensive zone. Now, the 10-minute overtime sudden death period is now a 10-minute overtime without sudden death. Games tied after his extra time are declared a tie or a draw. Exclusive of goaltenders, teams address elite 8 players with no more than 12 players. Now, by 1929-30, after a complete season with forward passes allowed in neutral and defensive zones, the league moves forward in its makeover. In 29-30, forward passes are finally allowed in the offensive zone, changing forever the way hockey is played. On the other hand, no passes were yet allowed across either blue line. A maximum of 3 players, including the goalie, can remain in the defensive zone once the puck has gone up the ice. Minor penalties will be assessed for the first 2 infractions. Major penalties are then imposed. Now, goaltenders cannot keep the puck. After making a save, they have to let it go right away. Otherwise, the consequence is a face-off taken 10 feet away from the net. The same rule still exists to this day, but instead of talking of a consequence in a negative way, it is seen as preventative or strategic action. The high-sticking penalty is introduced this year as well, and the maximum number of players is increased from 12 to 15. Now, on December 21st, 1929, in the midst of the Depression for some reason, forward passes began being permitted since the beginning of the season, more than double the number of goals scored. Halfway through the season, a new rule sees the day as a player is now prohibited to enter the offensive zone before the puck does. The offside rule is born. So, ladies and gentlemen, within 2 years, the NHL completely redesigned itself, much to the betterment of the association, but if you're trying to introduce, not say a new sport, but trying to get new fans, and this led to rule changes through the years, because you're finding more and more in sports, rule changes are put in to adapt the excitement or the appeal of the sport. And football, you know what they've done there, they've made it less angry with less injuries, but you know, the sack rule and stuff like that is craziness. But the NHL basically in 1929 is how we played in 2021, and that's, I think, pretty good. Have a good day. Bye.